Special Counsel Jack Smith immediately responded to Donald Trump's arguments before the United States Supreme Court. Donald Trump argued that haste makes waste and that the United States Supreme Court should delay hearing any direct appeal from Special Counsel Jack Smith until the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals rules on the issue of absolute immunity. But in an immediate response that Special Counsel Jack Smith filed with the United States Supreme Court, Special Counsel Jack Smith says that Donald Trump's suggestion of further delay before the United States Supreme Court is, quote, misguided. Special Counsel Jack Smith goes on to say, quote, the public interest in a prompt resolution of this case favors an immediate, definitive decision by this court. The charges here are of the utmost gravity. This case involves, for the first time in our nation's history, criminal charges against a former president based on his actions while in office. And not just any actions, alleged acts to perpetuate himself in power by frustrating the constitutionality prescribed for certifying the lawful winner of an election. The nation has a compelling interest in a decision on respondents' claim of immunity from these charges, and if they are to be tried, a resolution by conviction or acquittal without undue delay. Of course, all of these procedures were triggered when Donald Trump filed a motion to dismiss the criminal indictment against him in Washington, D.C. Federal Judge Tanya Chutkan denied Donald Trump's motion to dismiss on the grounds of absolute presidential immunity, finding that the text, the history, and the structure of the United States Constitution does not favor any sort of absolute presidential immunity in criminal cases of former presidents. Donald Trump filed an appeal before the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals. Special Counsel Jack Smith sought expedited briefing before the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals, which the D.C. Circuit granted. Oral argument will be held January 9th, 2024. All briefing on Donald Trump's appeal on the issue of absolute presidential immunity will be completed by January 2nd. But in addition to seeking expedited briefing before the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals, Special Counsel Jack Smith filed directly with the United States Supreme Court, seeking certiorari or oral argument directly with the United States Supreme Court before the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals makes its ruling. Donald Trump's lawyers, Alina Habba and others, had said they want the United States Supreme Court to make a ruling. Early on, when the indictment by Special Counsel Jack Smith was unsealed in Washington, D.C., Donald Trump's lawyers said that they had a slam-dunk absolute presidential immunity defense. Very recently, Alina Habba, Donald Trump's other lawyers, said they want the Supreme Court to get involved, but notably, when Donald Trump and his lawyers responded to the request or the petition for certiorari filed by Special Counsel Jack Smith, Donald Trump's lawyers said that haste makes waste. And this is what they filed yesterday, and said that the Supreme Court should wait, should hold off making any rulings on direct appeal, that these issues here do not present any extraordinary circumstance where they should rule immediately, and that the better decision would be, let's see what the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals does, see what the D.C. Court of Appeals says, and then the Supreme Court can get involved. Basically the exact opposite of what Donald Trump's lawyers have been saying publicly for some time now. So Special Counsel Jack Smith, in response to Donald Trump's haste makes waste commentary, filed a reply with the United States Supreme Court. You know, what's interesting is that the Supreme Court, in setting a briefing schedule, requested Donald Trump respond by December 20th. I think Special Counsel Jack Smith then just kind of availed himself to issue a very quick response to the Supreme Court. Less than 24 hours, Special Counsel Jack Smith filed this brief. Let's just go through it together, what was just filed, so you can see what I think are very compelling arguments that are being made by Special Counsel Jack Smith, why the Supreme Court should hear this matter on a direct appeal. And in the most extraordinary cases, the Supreme Court can hear direct certiorari. And so here's what Special Counsel Jack Smith says. He says, respondent agrees that the question of whether the former president of the United States enjoys absolute immunity from criminal prosecution for a conspiracy to overturn the election and thereby prevent the lawful winner from taking office is an issue of great constitutional moment. Respondent's principal argument in opposition is that the court should wait. That is incorrect. This court's immediate review of that question is the only way to achieve its timely and definitive resolution. The district court has set a March 4th, 2024 trial date. Respondent's interlocutory appeal has resulted in a stay of any proceedings that would move this case towards trial. And while the Court of Appeals has expedited briefing and argument on respondent's interlocutory appeal, the time of its final decision is uncertain. Only a grant of certiorari before judgment, a procedure followed in United States v. Nixon and comparably consequential cases, will assure that the court can hear and resolve the case promptly and, in any event, in its current term.
Lomi is the only appliance that prevents food waste from stinking up your kitchen and polluting the planet. Now that I've invested in a Lomi, it's changed the way I deal with my food waste. Lomi is the biggest innovation in the modern day kitchen since the dishwasher. Lomi has helped me turn my home into a climate solution. Now I can transform my organic waste into nutrient-rich Lomi earth that I can feed to my plants, lawn, or garden instead of sending it to the landfill. And as a result, I can help the environment and make my life easier. In just 4 hours, Lomi transforms almost anything you eat into nutrient-rich plant food at the push of a button. It's smart, simple food recycling that fits my space perfectly. Cut the chore of doing the trash in half and eliminate bugs and odors in your kitchen. And here's a bonus. You get to feed your lawn and garden with an all-natural fertilizer that you just created out of your own food scraps. All my food scraps, plant clippings, and even those leftovers I forgot in the back of the fridge can go back into my garden, helping me grow more nutritious food at home. I learned that food waste makes up a huge portion of our personal carbon footprint. By reducing the amount of food I send to landfill, I'm helping do my part for the planet. Whether you want to start making a positive environmental impact or just grow a beautiful garden, Lomi is perfect for you. Head to lomi.com/legalaf and use the promo code LegalAF to get $50 off your Lomi. That's $50 off when you head to lomi.com/legalaf and use promo code LegalAF at checkout. Thank you, Lomi, for sponsoring this video.
Respondent agrees that the important constitutional question in this case will require the court's review, but he, Donald Trump, maintains that the court should wait for the appellate process to unfold below so that this court has the benefit of the Court of Appeals decision. That suggestion is misguided. The public interest in a prompt resolution of this case favors an immediate definitive decision by this court. The charges here are of the utmost gravity. This case involves, for the first time in our nation's history, criminal charges against a former president based on his actions while in office, and not just any actions. Alleged acts to perpetuate himself in power by frustrating the constitutionally prescribed process for certifying the lawful winner of an election. The nation has a compelling interest in a decision on respondents' claim of immunity from the charges, and if they are to be tried, a resolution by a conviction or acquittal without undue delay. Given respondents' categorical immunity claim over every act alleged in the indictment, all of which he contends fall within the outer perimeter of his official duties, see his brief, this court's review is essential to allow this case to move forward. Only this court can provide the final word on his immunity defense. Certiorari before judgment will allow the court to schedule for briefing and argument to assure that respondent's immunity claim will be resolved as expeditiously as possible. Respondent's other arguments provide no sound reason to deny immediate review. He asserts that the government lacks standing to bring an appeal, but the government is not seeking to appeal the district court's order. Respondent himself has appealed that order. The petition asks this court to grant certiorari before judgment in a case that is already pending in the Court of Appeals, as this court has often done at the behest of parties that prevailed in the district court. And although a full response to respondent's immunity arguments can await briefing on the merits, respondent errs in asserting that the district court overlooked important aspects of the question. To the contrary, respondent repeats arguments that the district court carefully considered and rejected. Respondent's disagreements provides no reason to defer this court's resolution of his claim. This court should grant certiorari and set the case for expedited briefing end argument. So a very powerful response there by Special Counsel Jack Smith. Special Counsel Jack Smith reply brief goes over again why this case warrants certiorari, how this procedure has been followed in cases involving significant import to our democracy and under extraordinary circumstances, how Donald Trump's claim that the special counsel's office or the government has no standing is just completely false and belied by procedures like this that have been used before and have historical precedent. Goes on to explain how Donald Trump's arguments about why certiorari should not be granted are entirely without merit. And then it basically criticizes Trump and Trump's lawyers for trying to make merits-related arguments when the sole issue to be determined right now by the Supreme Court is whether or not expedited briefing will take place before the Supreme Court, whether certiorari should be granted at all, and whether an expedited process, rather, should be taking place. And then if certiorari is granted, then there can be a discussion on a briefing schedule for certiorari, a merits-based briefing, and then Donald Trump can make his merits arguments at oral argument. And so here's Special Counsel Jack Smith just basically saying, look, put up or shut up. Donald Trump claims this issue is of important. They claim this is constitutionally significant, but they're saying haste makes waste. No, this is something that the Supreme Court can and should hear now. Trump's arguments for absolute presidential immunity in criminal cases for former presidents is frivolous. Let's hear this case right now, United States Supreme Court. So Jack Smith didn't waste any time in filing this. Now this is fully briefed. It's in the hands of the Supreme Court, and let's see what they do, and we'll keep you updated here on the MeidasTouch Network. I'm Ben Meiselas. Hit subscribe. We're on our way to 2 million subscribers thanks to your support. Check us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Have a good one.
Hey, Meidas Mighty. Love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram at MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.